Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles. In this week's news, Leonard vies for HGTV makeover, and a 7th grader wins National Patriots Pen Essay Contest.
Stay tuned. Learn more about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. Last week, the bid for the M24 construction project was awarded by MDOT to Dan's Excavating Incorporated. Dan's Excavating is a Shelby Township-based company handling large-scale, high-profile underground projects. The site preparation, road construction, and structural concrete work. No exact start date has been determined. However, work should begin sometime in April, when frost law restrictions have been removed. The work is expected to continue until November 2020. In the meantime, Consumers Energy is set to resume its gas line relocation work this week. After required month-long layoffs, they will pick up where they left off at the end of January. Drivers can expect intermittent lane closures during the daytime hours. In the meantime, town hall meetings to keep the public updated will be held in the community room at the village offices on the third Monday of every month at 6 p.m. The 4-mile project will extend from Golden Gate Street to Lake Orion to just north of Harriet Street in Oxford Village.
This month, Oxford Township Supervisor Bill Dunn joined a group of fellow elected officials from across Oakland County for a press conference to express opposition to the Michigan House Bill 5550, which would amend the Regional Transit Authority Act to allow for a transportation millage of up to 3 mills, with 1 mill being equal to $1 for every 1,000 of the property's taxable value. The officials opposed the HB 5550, they believe it offers no tangible benefit to the majority of Oakland County, Western Wayne County, and Washtenaw County taxpayers. Elected boards of 22 communities in Oakland County, including Oxford Township, have approved the resolution asking for individual communities to be allowed to opt out of any RTA plan, providing no direct benefit to them, and to be exempt from the millage. Officials also expressed concern about the speed with which HB 5550 is moving through the State House.
Before you know it, the first No-Haz collection event will be here. It's scheduled for Saturday, April 18th at Oxford Middle School. To learn more about No-Haz collection events, when, where, how to register, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, check out the display at the Oxford Township office. You can also learn more online by visiting nohaz.com. There is no charge for Oxford Township and Oxford Village residents to participate in the No-Haz collection events. Show your love for your community, the environment, and this spring be properly disposing of your household hazardous waste.
Oxford Township trustee Elgin Nichols has served on the 7-member township board since November of 2016. He has submitted his letter of resignation effective March 15th. He and his wife have decided to move back to Bay County, where they came from, and we wish them well and thank Trustee Nichols for his service to the community. The Township Board is expected to vote on accepting Nichols' resignation at its 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, March 11th regular meeting. Also at the meeting, it's anticipated the Township Board will vote on advertising the vacancy via public notice in the March 18th and March 25th issue of the Oxford Leader, the Township's newspaper of record. It's anticipated the deadline to apply for the vacancy will be 4 p.m. Wednesday, April 1st. Applicants must be at least 18 years old, an Oxford resident or an Oxford Township resident or an Oxford Village resident for at least 30 days and a registered voter. The goal is to have the Township Board interview applicants during the 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, April 8th regular meeting and potentially vote to appoint someone that night. This appointment would expire on November 20th, 2020. This timeline is subject to change, and we wish Elgin and Carol well.
permanent Oxford Lone Ranger Scholarship is now established at Oxford High School, thanks to a $50,000 donation from the Elaine and Leo Stern Foundation. Elaine Stern was an original voice on the Lone Ranger radio show. The scholarship is for any Oxford High School graduating senior who is a resident of Oxford Area Community Schools District and is enrolling in an accredited public college, university, vocational, or trade school. The recipient will be selected based on actions and activities which embody the values of the historic Lone Ranger character as outlined in the Lone Ranger Creed. The scholarship was established in 2018 by the Lone Ranger Posse, a local group who celebrated the legacy of Brace Beamer. The Posse ran the Lone Ranger Parade and Festival in Oxford until 2018. The scholarship new funding is thanks to Megan Borland, a paralegal at the Southfield law firm Jaffe, Rayette, and Hewer and Weiss, which provides estate services for the $14 million Stern Foundation. Borland and her husband had visited Oxford for the Oxford Lone Ranger Festival, and it so happens she also helps identify organizations and causes which would have been of interest to Elaine Stern, who died in September 2016 at the age of 96. She's well missed.
Everybody keep your fingers crossed for Leonard, or the village of Leonard, to become the next TV star. OCTV was pleased to help Leonard apply for HGTV's nationwide hometown takeover contest by assisting them with a 3-minute video featuring the properties in which the village could use a facelift. If selected, the village would be featured on Home and Garden Television's new show, Hometown Takeover, starring husband and wife Ben and Erin Napier. The show is a spin-off from Hometown, now in its 4th season, in which the couple renovates homes in their hometown of Laurel, Mississippi. Takeover is a 6-episode special event set to air on the network in 2021, according to HGTV.com. Instead of renovating single homes, they will basically restore and revitalize the entire town. I'm hoping for Leonard to be picked among them, and you should too. Congratulations.
After chronicling Oxford Public Library's 95th year history at a fireside chat last month, Library Director Brian Cloutier assessed the library's present and looked into its future. As of a few years ago, the building constructed in 1996 is completely paid off. The library runs on 2 operational millages voted in perpetuity. Since governments tend to fall behind the economic curve, the library's budget has only recently recovered from the economic recession to where it was before 2008. Cloutier commended the board and staff for doing an excellent job in maintaining the level of service and becoming accustomed to, that people are accustomed to, even though poor economic times prevailed. Now that the library is at a good place again financially, they are looking toward expanding. So watch for the library to get even better. The winners of the Oxford Township Kids Count Coloring Contest are in and can be found on the Charter Township of Oxford Facebook page. The Kids Count Coloring Contest was designed to promote awareness of the participation in the upcoming 2020 U.S. Census, and invitations to participate in the census will arrive in the mail on or between March 12th and March 20th. You can respond online, by telephone, or by mail. Make sure to count yourself and everyone living in your household. Thank you to all the kids who participated, and congratulations to all the winners. Thank you to Urban Air Adventure Park inside Legacy 925 and Oxford 7 Theater, the Funky Monkey, toys, and generously donated the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place prizes, respectively. Great
That's
job.
really
Thank
cool.
you.
Very, very cool. That was a really great idea of the township to get kids involved, because then that made their parents stand up and take notice,
Yeah.
which is a great idea.
I always like those things, when they happen,
Yeah.
the parents all come together with the community,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and the businesses.
Yeah,
It's
and the
good.
kids did a good job. I saw those pictures and they looked really great. Hopefully they'll also feature some of the other, like the runner-up or other kids that didn't quite get the prize, but they put the time and effort into it. I think that would be nice. You can always find any kind of township news now on their Facebook page.
Right.
Because CJ's doing a great job keeping the community informed.
Yeah, mentioning that also in the village, I mean, if you want to know what's going on with M24, I mean, everything is
Yeah.
posted on the DDA and also on the
Yeah.
village website.
Yeah, and I love
So,
that they're
let's
going to
see what-
start having meetings. I think those meetings, those Monday night meetings, will start in April when all the construction is probably really flowing at that point. But we really need to support the community and the businesses at that time. Golly,
Absolutely.
that's going to be a mess. I don't envy anybody, and I keep telling myself, oh, I'm glad I don't have to drive downtown anymore. I lived on Gillespie, and I'm glad I don't. But I need to get rid of that attitude, and we all need to get rid of that attitude. This is when they're going to need us the most.
Absolutely.
So I'll just mention the Chamber and OCTV are partnering during that time, and we will feature a business a week. Each business downtown, a chamber business, will provide some kind of special that week, and we will feature it. So keep an eye on our television station, YouTube, Facebook, and the chamber's websites as well to find out which business is being featured, because they're going to offer some kind of special just to keep people going downtown. Don't be intimidated by that.
Now, the chamber just had a breakfast thing where there are a number of dignitaries there from the community
Yes.
that presented what's happening in your community, and you can find that on our OCCTV webpage.
Yep, .org. And then on our YouTube too. It's called Leadership, I think, Leadership Meeting.
Very
Yeah.
well done, I thought.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yep.
The Chamber always does. Anyhow, that's it for Oxford News this week. If you'd like to learn more about these stories or others, you can pick up a copy of the Oxford Leader newspaper, or better yet, catch us on our website at occtv.org, on YouTube, and of course our regular cable channel Spectrum 191 and AT&T channel 99.
Coming up soon, OCTV's very own Cody Wright with school sports and school news with River Tuck. And you won't want to miss Auto Talk and Science and the News with Dave Kenny.
I'm Terry Stiles. Thanks for watching Oxford News this week, where we bring your news closer to home.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Remember, always be kind to your friends and neighbors, and thank you for watching.
Hello, Oxford parents and students. My name is River Tuck, and welcome back to your school news right here on OCTV. Although March is already fast underway and it may seem like spring break is just around the corner, there's still plenty to talk about concerning our Oxford schools. For starters, make sure to check out the last episode of Schooling Around, episode 121, which celebrated 2 different students for the award-winning talents they have put on display already this year. Those 2 students are great examples of the hard work and creativity of our student body, which is filled with countless students achieving great things every day in and out of school. In case you missed it, kicking off February, the buzz was all around our Oxford Athletes Signing Day, which saw 14 student athletes signed to schools all across the country for a wide range of sports. From there, February was on a roll, celebrating award-winning teachers and staff, those at the core of student success. And then the high school came together to raise over $20,000 for charity through Spirit Week fundraisers. So incredible, I have to say it twice. That is $20,000 raised by our students right here in Oxford. If I haven't already proven we have the best students in the world, then I have even more news for you. That wasn't all in February. Our bowlers, wrestlers, cheer squad, and many more athletes continued to achieve at the highest level. If bringing in athletic titles wasn't enough, it shouldn't be any surprise our students earned scholarships and awards for creative endeavors like short films. One group of talented students has qualified as finalists for the Courageous Persuaders video contest. Clayton Willis, Bryce Darren, and Dan Von Allman have created short film projects before under the YouTube channel Plateau Productions. This time around, they've made a short 30-second public service announcement style video for this year's theme. See what you think. Honestly, incredible work. Speaking from experience, putting together even 30 seconds of film can be very difficult. What you see here is actually only 3 shots, yet it tells an entire story. To support the Plateau Productions team, please go check out their YouTube page, as well as visiting the Courageous Persuaders YouTube page to vote on their video for the competition. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that bright young group of filmmakers in the future, but for now, let's jump back into some more happenings in the district. If you've been paying attention, then you should know by now that March is Reading Month, and all that means is that teachers and students have just one extra reason to celebrate reading, writing, and all things literacy. The teachers, of course, had everything planned ahead, so the students have been extra busy. Clear Lake Elementary staff and students were all dressed up to follow the yellow brick road to reading last week. The Oxford Community Schools Facebook page shared this amazing picture. Be sure to give them a follow if you haven't already. Every classroom is full with reading this month. If you find your student responding well to all of the reading buzz, then think about taking them to the Oxford Public Library to pick up something new, or plan to attend any of the great youth and teen programs like reading to a special therapy dog every Monday and Saturday this month. There's so much going on with March is Reading Month. Depending on when you are seeing this, I may be in the schools right now, mic and camera covering one of these stories. So be sure to stay tuned for the next Schooling Around episode to catch more on the March reading celebration. Another story out of this week that will be featured on the next Schooling Around comes out of another award-winning corner of the high school where the students are very busy. That's right, I will be in the auto shop this Tuesday covering students who will try their hands at the brakes competition early in the morning. I'm looking forward to attending that, so be sure to follow our YouTube and Facebook pages so you won't miss a thing. I am almost out of time, so real quick before I go, here is a handful of dates I want you all to keep in mind this month. Superintendent office hours are Monday the 16th from 6 to 7 p.m. in case you have any burning questions for the superintendent. The OHS Theater Program Spring Musical will start its run at the PAC on Thursday the 19th, running every night after until Sunday the 22nd. The only other date, which I'm sure I don't have to remind you of, but I will anyways, is the 30th of March, which marks the first regular school day off for spring break. Classes will resume April 6th. That's going to do it for this edition of School News right here on OCTV. As always, if you want to stay up to date on all your school content, you must follow, like, subscribe, and all of that to the OCTV YouTube and Facebook pages. I hope you have enjoyed, as always, your school content for your school content here on OCTV. I'm River Tuck. Until next time, Oxford.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication New Scientist. In our first story, a California-based company that has been quietly building small disposable rockets is getting ready for liftoff. Spaceflight startup Astra is gearing up to launch its first 3 orbital missions in quick succession and potentially win $12 million from the U.S. government. The prize is part of the DARPA Launch Challenge run by the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, which is requiring a firm to launch 2 launches at different locations within days of one another. The idea is to build up the military's capability to launch satellites in short notice. When the challenge was announced in 2018, 18 teams qualified to participate, but Astra is the only one that remains. If its first orbital launch, which was planned for February 28th, safely delivered its payload into orbit, the company will have won $2 million. A few weeks later, the firm planned to launch another rocket from a different pad at the same spaceport in Alaska. If that is also successful, the company will get another $10 million. Chris Kemp, the co-founder and CEO of Astra, says the prospect of winning the challenge is pretty unlikely, actually. Astra's rocket has never reached orbit before, and doing so on the first try is a long shot, he says. Our success criteria is that we will establish enough in these 2 flights that we will be able to reach orbit on the 3rd flight. That goal is based on a plan for quick iteration of the rocket. There are 5 rockets already built, and Astra will use feedback from each flight to improve the next rocket, Kemp says. Astra plans to go forward with the launches regardless of whether the firm wins any prize money. Actually, unlike a lot of rockets that are incredibly complex machines that are very labor intensive to build, this is a very inexpensive aluminum rocket put together in much the same way that an automobile is put together, he says. That makes the 11.6 meter rockets both cheaper, One cost about $1 million to build and easier to update than traditional ones. Eventually, Kemp says that Astra plans to build hundreds of rockets, continuously lowering the cost. As satellites get smaller and smaller, and the popularity of huge constellations of them grows, these inexpensive rockets could allow firms more flexibility to launch a few satellites at a time instead of tens or hundreds, for instance, when one in a constellation needs replacing. If you had to plan a year in advance to fly on an airplane, you can't even imagine what the travel industry would be like, Kemp says. That's what we're accepting as normal in the space industry. Astra's first orbital launches, if they go smoothly, could be a step towards changing all of that. In our next story, a number of ant species produce acid in a poison gland in their abdomens to spray at their enemies. Now it turns out they also use the acid to kill pathogens in their food. Because these ants often vomit up food to feed their co-workers, this helps prevent diseases spreading in colonies. Unlike the stomachs of vertebrates, those insects aren't normally highly acidic. Simon Traguste at the University of Bayreuth in Germany and his colleagues have found that species such as the Florida carpenter ant increase the acidity of their stomachs by swallowing acid after eating. If ants were prevented from bending around to reach their poison glands, acidity levels would be lower. Next, the team fed ants food contaminated with a bacterium that can cause lethal infections. Ants that were prevented from drinking their acid were less likely to survive. Finally, the team looked at how likely the disease was to be passed on when ants fed other ants via regurgitation, as is common in the species. The poison glands of the ants being fed were blocked with superglue. If the glands of the ants during the feeding were blocked as well, more of the ants they fed died. The results show that drinking acid plays a major role in protecting these ants from dangerous microbes and preventing infections spreading in the colonies. There is a clear benefit from this phenomenon, says Liselette Sundström at the University of Helsinki in Finland, who in 2015 reported that ants self-medicate to fight off fungal infections. However, it isn't clear whether the ants actively drink from the glands, she says, or whether it happens accidentally as they groom themselves. Traguste's finding isn't the only example of ants using acid as medication. When tawny crazy ants are sprayed with the venom of fire ants, the tawny crazy ants apply the acid to their bodies to detoxify the venom. Smart guys. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.
What's going on, Wildcat fans? Cody Wright back here for this week's Sports Report. We got a lot to go over this week as we get close to wrapping up our winter sports season and transitioning into the spring. We got baseball, softball, soccer, lacrosse, and tennis all coming up, so there is a lot to look forward to. Let's start this week off, though, with bowling. Primarily, the boys' team has taken first place in the regional tournament, which means the boys will go on to the MHSAA state finals for the 6th time in the last 7 years. Top 3 finishes moved on to stay at the regional tournament in Grand Blanc. All 6 Oxford boys finished in the top 30 out of 86 individuals, which is very impressive and shows just how strong of a team we really are. Unfortunately, the girls didn't swing it this year in regionals, which puts an end to a 4-year streak of competing in the state finals. Also, the boys swim and dive team competed in the OAA Red Division Championship, earning 184 points total, which gives them 6th place finish. Junior Zach Beatty was Oxford's top performer, taking 3rd place in the 500-yard freestyle and 4th place in the 200-yard freestyle. On the diving end, Evan Covert will be competing on March 5th amongst 26 other individual divers in the MHSAA state meet. We don't have results on that as of now, so we will have that in next week. Anyhow, that is about all for this week's report. Next week, we will have the results on both boys and girls basketball as they compete in playoffs, as well as a follow-up on the bowling and the swim. Like I said, we are wrapping up the winter season. Soon we will have a lot of fresh sports here for the spring. So for any more info on these events and more, go to oxfordathletics.org. There's plenty of game breakdowns, schedules, scores, rosters, stats, all that stuff, and more. Once again, that is oxfordathletics.org. While you're at it, might as well check us out at occtv.org. All of our coverage of these events and more can be found on our YouTube page, which you can access through the website. Once again, that is occtv.org.
And that's all for now. I want to thank you all for watching and remind you all to tune in next time. But until then, I'm Cody Wright. Go Wildcats!
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, Ford Motor Company said March 3rd it will offer a battery electric version of the Transit cargo van in the U.S. and Canada for the 2022 model year as it looks to strengthen its leadership in commercial vehicles. The automaker said the EV will be available in cargo van, cutaway, and chassis cab configurations, plus 3 roof heights and 3 body lengths. It declined to discuss range, pricing, or other production-related specifics. Ford agreed to build its Transit EV at its Kansas City assembly plant as part of its 4-year contract with the UAW ratified last year. It's also planning a Transit EV for Europe. The van will join an F-150 EV and the Mustang Mach-E in Ford's growing electric vehicle portfolio as the automaker invests more than $11.5 billion in the technology through 2022. Commercial vehicles are a critical component to our big bet in electrification, Ford COO Jim Farley said in a statement. As leaders in this space, we are accelerating our plans to create solutions that help businesses run better, restarting our all-electric Transit and F-150. This Ford Transit isn't just about creating an electric drivetrain. It's about designing and developing a digital product that propels fleets forwards. Ford unveiled the van as part of its annual Work Truck Show in Indianapolis. The news comes a day before crosstown rival General Motors was set to offer media and investors a glimpse of its own EV plans. The introduction of a battery electric Transit is in line with what Farley told investors in February when he vowed to lean into Ford's strength in commercial vehicles and step up its electrification efforts among other areas. Transit is the best-selling cargo van in the world, and Ford has been the best-selling commercial vehicle brand in the U.S. for 41 years, the company says. Its U.S. truck and van fleets have risen 33% since 2015. Ford sold over 153,000 Transits in the U.S. last year, up 11.7%. The automaker said the Transit EV will feature a connected modem and tools such as a live GPS tracking and vehicle diagnostics so fleet managers can better monitor their vans. And still at Ford, Allstate struck a deal with Ford Motor Company that will allow some of the automaker's customers to share data with the insurer for its program that tracks mileage. The majority of Ford and Lincoln 2020 model year vehicles with embedded modems will be able to connect with Allstate's MileWise program, which is currently in 14 states, according to the insurer. MileWise allows customers to pay for insurance based on the number of miles driven. Ford has been working with companies including Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company to connect with newer vehicles with programs that measure how a customer drives and adjust a policy accordingly. For years, insurers have used telematics devices that connect cars or apps to gather the information. Allstate says it expects data collected directly from vehicles to eventually replace such devices. Connected vehicles have the potential to deliver new benefits to Ford customers, including the ability to help lower their insurance premiums, says Carrie Novotny, COO of the Ford's Pass mobile program. Allstate has been expanding programs that track drivers to offer discounts for safe driving habits or let customers pay for coverage by the mile. The company is testing a program that allows clients to see how driving habits affect a personalized price. The agreement with Ford gives drivers the ability to control and customize their auto insurance policy like never before, Ginger Purgatorio, Allstate's Senior Vice President of Product Management, said in a statement. And on the recall front, Toyota Motor Corporation said March 4th it would add another 1.2 million U.S. vehicles to a fuel pump recall to address potential vehicle stalls. The Japanese automaker first said in January it would recall 696,000 U.S. vehicles with a fuel pump that may stop operating, which could result in a vehicle stall. About 1,118,000 of those units were later deemed to be not affected. Dealers will replace the fuel pumps with a new one. Toyota said the recall now covers 1.8 million Toyota and Lexus vehicles in total in the U.S. and 3.2 million units worldwide, including older vehicles from as far back as the 2013 model year. Owners have complained of rough engine running, engine not starting, and loss of power while driving at low speeds. Toyota said the reports occurred more commonly in areas in the southern U.S. with warmer climates. Well, that's it for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and as always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down Life Sideways.